Have you ever stopped to think? How did the gods actually rise to power? How did Zeus, a name that echoed across millennia, become the sovereign of Olympus? The story of Zeus's rise isn't just about power, it's about betrayal, fate, and the reconstruction of a shattered world. And today I'm going to take you right into that turning point, the moment when thunder spoke louder than chaos. When the war between titans and gods finally ended, it didn't leave behind peace. It left wreckage. I've always found it curious how every great revolution leaves a bitter aftertaste. You win. But then what? Who takes the throne of the world? After the Titanomachy, which we explored in the last video, the three surviving brothers faced a new challenge: how to rebuild a broken universe. Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades didn't inherit an empire. They inherited ruins, so they divided it: sky, sea, and underworld. Zeus took the heavens, Poseidon ruled the oceans, and Hades was cast down into the realm of the dead. Simple. Not even close. That moment marked the beginning of what we now call the Olympian era. But Zeus needed more than a throne, he needed a symbol. That's where Mount Olympus enters the scene, a real mountain in Greece, yes, but in mythology it was something beyond the physical, a kind of divine dimension, above the reach of mortals. That's where Zeus began to shape not just a palace, but a political system, a divine court, a celestial order. He wasn't alone. His sisters Hera, Demeter, and Hestia joined him, and slowly other gods gathered around this new center of power. But Olympus was unstable from the start. Why? Because it was built on choices, and many of those choices carried dangerous consequences. Let's talk about Hera for a moment. She wasn't just Zeus's wife, she was his equal, at least in strength and presence. In mythology, Hera represents marriage, divine royalty, and loyalty, but also jealousy, vengeance, and control. Their relationship was always tense. Zeus, known for his unfaithfulness, constantly clashed with Hera, who responded with fury and manipulation. And in that constant battle between the two, we start to see something strange. Olympus was a dysfunctional family, but a family with absolute power over the universe. As Zeus's reign stabilized, a new generation of gods began to emerge. And here's where it gets fascinating. Athena, born from Zeus's own head, the goddess of wisdom and strategic war. Ars, Hera's son, wild, impulsive, brutal, the embodiment of raw war. Apollo and Artemis twins, representing sun and moon. Hermes, the cunning messenger. Hephaestus, the divine blacksmith, cast out of Olympus by his own father for being imperfect. Each of these gods carried a piece of the new order Zeus was trying to create, and at the same time embodied the cracks in that very structure. They weren't just powerful, they were ambitious, proud, competitive. What Zeus had built was an empire, but an empire made of immortal egos and divine rivalries. And then there's Prometheus, a story that always stands out to me. He was a titan, but sympathetic to humanity, and because of that, he stole fire from the gods and gave it to mortals. Zeus was furious. His punishment was merciless. Prometheus was chained to a rock where an eagle devoured his liver every day, and it regenerated each night in an endless cycle. What does this tell us? That Zeus was just but didn't forgive betrayal, that even in this new world, Olympus carried echoes of the old chaos, and that even among gods, there were sacred limits. Many people think that after the Titanomachy, the gods lived in peace, but that's far from the truth. The greatest threat to Zeus's reign came later, and it was called Typhon, a monstrous being created by Gaia, Mother Earth herself, to avenge the Titans. Typhon was a horror, 100 serpent heads, a voice like 10,000 roars, blazing eyes. Zeus was almost defeated. He had to flee, rethink, adapt. But in the end, wielding his thunderbolts, he managed to imprison Typhon beneath Mount Etna in Sicily, where, according to legend, he still causes earthquakes and volcanic eruptions to this day. That story reveals something essential. even the greatest gods can be challenged, and no throne is safe forever. Before we continue, if this story is pulling you in, if you're fascinated by how myth, power, and mystery collide, then take a moment to subscribe to Arcnora. This channel exists to uncover the stories beneath the surface, to question what we think we know, and to wonder about the forgotten truths that shape the world. Your support helps us keep exploring. So hit subscribe and let's keep climbing Olympus together. We uncovered how Zeus took the throne of Olympus, but power among gods was never permanent. The Olympian order, as glorious as it seemed, was built on fault lines. And now we dive deeper into the betrayals, rivalries, and mortal entanglements that nearly brought Olympus to its knees. Hephaestus was one of the first to suffer. Cast out of Olympus for his deformity, either by Hera or Zeus depending on the version, he became a symbol of divine rejection, a god thrown from the heavens not for rebellion, but for being born imperfect. But this was only the beginning. Tensions among the gods grew with every new generation. Athene and Ars, both deities of war, became bitter rivals. Athena stood for wisdom and discipline. Ars embodied chaos and rough fury. Zeus often favored Athena, which only deepened Ars's resentment. Their conflict echoed through both Olympus and the mortal world, reflecting the dual nature of war itself. But perhaps the greatest instability came when the gods turned their attention to Earth. Mortals were no longer spectators, they became pawns. Zeus, known for taking many forms, seduced mortal women and fathered children who straddled two worlds, demigods. These children became heroes, legends, and liabilities. Hera, in her fury, targeted them. Heracles, one of the most famous demigods, endured endless suffering at her hands. She sent serpents to kill him in his crib, and later drove him to madness. His 12 labors were a sentence, not a glory quest, and all of it stemmed from divine jealousy. Then came the wars of mortals, manipulated and escalated by the gods. The Trojan War was perhaps the most infamous. Sparked by the vanity of Paris and fueled by the grudges of Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, it became a battlefield not only for men, but for gods. Sides were taken, heroes used, Olympus trembled from above. Even among themselves, the gods plotted. At one point, Hera, Athena, and Poseidon attempted to overthrow Zeus. They failed. But after that moment, suspicion became the norm. Olympus had no peace, only temporary balances of power. And through it all, the gods revealed something deeply unsettling. They weren't immune to human flaws. They were prideful, vengeful, petty, powerful, yes, but painfully familiar. So what does this all mean? It means Olympus wasn't a utopia, it was a reflection of us, and perhaps it still is. If this journey through myth and power has captivated you, now is the time. Subscribe to Arcnora. We dive into the stories behind the stories, the hidden truths, the forgotten gods, the questions that still echo across time. Hit that subscribe button and join us as we uncover what lies beneath the myths. Discover, question, wonder.